officials, thank you very much for joining us for this meeting of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. Today is Tuesday, the 7th of December 2021. It has now gone 15:15 in the afternoon, and we are meeting today to deliberate on vote 9 in Department Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B6 of 2021. Then we will also be considering and hopefully adopting the draft committee report on vote 9. And then there will be an opportunity for resolutions, actions and general. Before we start with the agenda, I would just like to give all members an opportunity to introduce themselves and to ensure that we are indeed quorate. My name is Andrikus van der Westhuizen. It's my privilege to be the chair of this committee. Honourable members, if you would be so kind to just introduce yourselves on this platform.
Matlodi Maseko, member of the Standing Committee.
Deirdre Bartman.
Afternoon, Chair, everyone. Pat Moran, member of this committee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brett Heron, member of the committee.
Good. Thank you very much, members. It's wonderful to see a full house of members being present. Honourable members, I trust that you've all received a copy of the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill. We will now be briefed by the Minister and senior officials on the adjustments that are contained in that document. I have received apologies from Mr. Piet van Zyl, the head of department, as well as Dr. Razina Umar, the Chief Executive Officer for Cape Nature. I believe that Mr. Ayub Mohammed is currently acting as head of the department, and I will give him an opportunity just after the Minister has spoken to also introduce his team if he so wishes. And with that, Honourable Minister, if you would like to just brief us from your side and give us your views on the budget that is in front of us. Over to you, Minister Bredal.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, the Acting Head of the Department and the CEO of Cape Nature, the officials present, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish that we could say that we are meeting under different circumstances than our previous meeting, but unfortunately, this is not the case. With the neo variant and the number of infections slowly rising again, we are still in the time where the coronavirus continues to create major challenges on a global scale. The Western Cape government has also had to deal with challenges, and many departments are severely affected by this pandemic. Honourable Chair, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge all staff and their families that have lost loved ones during this time. I want to also give my appreciation to the head of the department, Mr. Piet van Zyl, in his absence for a well-deserved vacational break, and Dr. Omar, the Chief Executive Officer of Cape Nature, for their ongoing leadership and commitment during these challenging times. The staff from this department and Cape Nature has gone beyond the call of duty to ensure that the mandates and performance areas are met. Thank you for this. Honourable Chair, we are all acutely aware of the current fiscal constraints that we have on the national level. As a department and entity, we had to make changes and budget cuts to ensure we comply with the National Treasury directives. This inclusive of the previous budget reductions that the department and Cape Nature had to make has put severe strain on the way business is done. We had to relook with ways we do business to ensure maximum output and continuation of service delivery in the public. The total allocation of the vote has decreased by 4,645,000 rand from 570 62,000 rand to 565,417,000 rand. This includes the reduction of Cape Nature's budget with 2 million to 286,757,000 rand. Chair, you are aware of the current situation in drift sands. From vote 9, 4 million rand is allocated to and shifted for the required security funding for the drift sands nature reserve property. As a department, we had to reprioritize operational costs to contribute towards the overspending on compensation of employees due to the implementation of the 2021 wage agreements amounting to 1,749,000 rand. The department currently has 12 ambient air quality monitoring stations located across the province. Overall, the air quality monitoring results shows that the province air quality is generally good. The department has prioritized the replacement of aging infrastructure in the Western Cape avian air quality monitoring network over the MTF period to ensure good quality air quality measurements continue to inform air quality planning and address complex air quality challenges in this province. This reprioritization, together with water quality equipment and IT equipment, amounts to 4,146,000 rand. Chair, the key vote 9 policy priorities informing the department 2021 to 2024 medium-term expenditure framework are to enable the province to achieve a more resilient and sustainable environment, which will empower an inclusive and transformative spatial economy. As public servants, we are working for the citizens to ensure that we are changing their lives for the better. We are striving to find innovative ways to deal with budget constraints and current challenges we are facing due to the worldwide pandemic. I want to thank the department and Cape Nature yet again for the continuous work that they are delivering on. With those few words, Honourable Chairperson, I want to hand back to you to start the deliberations. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Bradell. And Mr. Mohammed, if you would be so kind, perhaps just to highlight to us some of the items that you believe we should recognize in the budget. I just see that there's an echo, so I presume there may be more than one microphone in the room where you are. So if we could just use that additional microphone, then I think we're all good to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually sitting alone in the office. So, Mr. Chair and members, Mr. Bradell, I'm joined by the Chief Directorate, the top management of the department in the room. So I've got all the Chief Directors, as well as the CFO, and also of Cape Nature, the CFO of Cape Nature, and Mr. Shiraz Ismail. As you indicated that Dr. Omar has apologized and Mr. Van Zyl has also apologized. So based on what Minister has said, yes, our budget has been cut to the tune of 4.6 million rand. And can I just confirm that you can see the presentation?
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll go through the presentation in terms of the main items that we will indicate, and the content will give a summary, and then we'll look at the different economic classifications, and then if needed we can also go into the movement between the programs. So our original budget, as Minister said, was 570 odd million rand. The budget has been increased by an amount of 1.955 million rand. And that is the adjustments that the positive adjustments that we received. We received 500,000 rand from the Department of Human Settlements, and that is for housing market study that will be undertaken in support of the inclusionary housing policy. We've also received some drift rollover money from the last financial year, 2021, and that money will also then go towards the security at drift sands. And then from in the 21-22, our own revenue that we're generating, part of that money will also be allocated to the Drift Sands project. So in total, that amount of money, 1.95 million rand, was a income to the department. But then, if you look at the decreases that we've had to endure, 4 million rand was shifted to towards Drift Sands, and that we moved that money to the Department of Human Settlements. And then we've also, but this will benefit, the next one is the shifting of the funds for the DEMIS and the IPWOS project. That's 2.6 million rand. That money is actually what we will, for the ICT systems within the department. So we will be benefiting from that, from that shifting of funds, because those are IT projects that the CEI, the Center for E-Innovation, they run. So we've had to do that for them. In terms of the economic classification, there has been an increase of 1.749 million, and that is as a result of the implementation of the 2021 wage agreement. And if you recall that we had to budget for a non-pensionable cash allowance of 1,000 rand backdated to April 21, and also the 1.5% salary adjustment that the department, that all public sector organizations had to implement. So there was that financial implication on the COE. In terms of the goods and services, it decreased by 9.7 million rand, and the result, that 9.7 million rand is made up as a result of the following movements. I mentioned we mentioned the 2 million and the 2.6 million already. 2 million for Drift Sands security to Department of Human Settlements, and 2.6 million for the CEI projects. And then the positive amounts that we received was mentioned earlier on. And then 7.05 million that we had to find within the department, and that had become available due to the reprioritization in respect of traveling and operational expenses. So that makes up the rest of the money that we had to move around, and we had to find in the department to make up the shortfall as a result of the salary negotiations. We've also had to find money from within to pay for capital assets like the air quality stations, the computers, and the water quality equipment, and 4.1 million is attributed to that. And then we also had to we also moved money around to fund the transfers and the subsidies in respect of retirement benefits and unutilized leave credits payouts for the staff who had retired in the previous financial year, and also some 5,000 rand for TV licenses. That's just a breakdown of what I mentioned now, and the highlight in terms of the transfers was the 2 million that we had to transfer for human settlements. We've spoken about this in terms of what Minister mentioned. In terms of air quality, 2.8 million rand will be spent on air quality in this financial year still, in terms of what we have got over. And then we've also had to replace and replenish laptop supplies and to replace PCs with laptops to enable officials to work remotely, and some 821,000 rand for water quality equipment. If we go to the programs, there's some shifts within the programs throughout, and that's just to balance that is where we've moved the money around. So from program 1, we've moved 1.167 million rand to program 3, and that took made up of 813,000 and 354,000 respectively. And you'll see, I mean, a lot of the money has been moved around to, in the green boxes, to implement the 2021 wage agreement. So most of these items have the reprioritization was in respect of traveling and operating expenditure, photocopy machines because we're not at work, and the GMT transport rates that we were dealing with, and then also some delays in the filling of posts, so we were able to move some money around in terms of that. So similarly, we have for program 2 also reprioritization of money, and then also to go to the implementation of the wage agreement, and also legal fees. in program 3, there's also been some certain posts had to be postponed, and the savings then from postponing those appointments went into the implementation of the wage agreement. And then in program 4, again, the operational costs being reprioritized, and then money being moved to the wage agreement and also to legal fees and to the provision of the replacement computer. Program 6, again, capacity savings, some savings that we accrued because of them not having to travel. So there was a reduction in travel and venue costs, and then also the capacity building events being held virtually and not physically in venues, and also towards program 7. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chair and members, Minister and colleagues, that is the overall situation of the department. If I just go back, so in total, our original budget has been decreased by 4.6 million to 565 million, with a concomitant decrease in Cape Nature's budget also by some 2 million rand. Mr. Chair, that is the content of the presentation that we have for you, and we are open for any questions if there are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohammed. And with that, then, members, if there are any questions, you will also see the detailed document on page 193. What follows on that in the estimates of the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill. Please raise your hand if any of you would like to ask a question, comment. I see Honourable Bartman's hand first. Over to you, Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to know on page 208 regarding the 2.6, I think, million rand shift to Department of Premier for the Integrated Pollutant and Waste Information System. I just wanted to know specifically what that relates to. I do know, obviously, that Premier's department deals with a lot of the IT indication stuff, but if they could just, the department could just indicate to us what the expected outcomes of this particular program would be. Thank you.
Any other hands? In the absence of that, perhaps, Mr. Mohammed, you can just... Honourable Maseko, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened within my hand. Just a quick one. I know from the Department of Human Settlement, there's been a shift. There's been an allocation to the department that they talked about the inclusionary housing policy. If maybe, I don't know how did I read my budget, but if they can say where is it allocated on this adjustment budget, I'll appreciate that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Chair. Let me quickly first get clarity. Draft Science, Chair. I've seen a letter from the MEC, and I'm not sure whether it is referring to Draft Science that does not qualify for a nature reserve anymore. I just wanted to check whether it's the same draft sent.
Good, thank you, Honourable Maran. And yeah, perhaps if we could just get a little bit of information regarding the future utilization of that land and also the security measures that are in place and that seems to be quite costly. Is that for security guards 24/7? Is it for a fence? If we could just get some indication as to whether you believe that would be effective in safeguarding the land for any future users that you may envisage, and whether the land will also be transferred.
Chair, I just wanted to check, is it the same draft sense?
It's the same one. Do you want to have a follow-up on that?
Yeah, but let them respond to something. I will have a question later on.
Thank you. For a second round, Mr. Mohammed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The 500,000 is on page 193. If you look at the bottom of the table, there's a 500,000 indicated under other adjustments. And yes, that is for the inclusionary housing, for a study that would be contribute to the inclusionary housing policy. So we are getting 500,000 rand from the Department of Human Settlements to assist with that study. And then the integrated 2.6 million is for the department's integrated information management information system and also for the integrated pollution and waste information system. So these are two IT systems, ICT and database systems that the department is dealing with. The one dealing with all the waste matters in the department and pollutant matters as well, where service providers register their facilities, and we also have all our licenses tracked on there, but I'll also give over to Gottlieb. He can just give a brief description on the ecosystem. And then the DEMA system is where we are working on a Section 24G system, for example, and the database integration within the department so that these different information systems can talk to each other. So the CEI are managing those projects because we're not allowed to, based on the corporate model. So that's why that money is then transferred to them to pay for the services which they will render. Then I'll give over to Gottlieb. I can just talk to the ecosystem. And then Karen, the questions on drift sands, Mr. Chair has indicated, yes, it is the same drift sands in terms of the conservation status. But then if you can also please elaborate on the future of the land and the security and the fencing and what the money will be used for. Thank you, Chair. And then over to Gottlieb and then to Karen. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thanks, Ayub, and members, Minister. So the ecosystem is, as Mr. Mohammed mentioned, it is a system which is ongoing that is assisting us in managing the reporting around waste in particular, but it also in terms of, because it's in terms of looking at the pollution aspect. So our water quality monitoring is also coming now into that system. So currently our developers, as Mr. Mohammed mentioned, is contracted through CEI, both on IPWAS as well as DEMAS. DEMAS is the integrated system in our department, and that's in particularly where our dashboards are housed, and using now the latest tool around MS, the Power BI, business intelligence tools within that space, that software and the development regarding the information. Which then flow from IPWAS into the DEMAS to simplify reporting, assist with our analysis of our information, whether it's waste information, registration of our clients, and there's over 8,000 clients within that system. And then also in terms of our complaints module, and then we have also then the water quality monitoring, as I mentioned, in terms of making it automated so that the information which we get from our service provider, which does the lab analysis, then flow into IPWAS, and we're able then to extract reporting through the DEMAS system in having that information assisting with our analysis of our results, both on the waste then and water. So we currently have done the Breda River, and we are moving to the Berg River in getting that information then into the system so that our Power BI tools in DEMAS can be used. We can bring about the efficiencies. So it is around the maintenance and enhancements of the ecosystem, which amount to about 600,000 of that 2.odd. The rest is other in our department, other dashboards for our sister chief directorates with regard to their work within the DEMA space. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Arendse, and over to you, Ms. Shippey.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, honourable members, HOD, MEC. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Drift sands is an incredibly unfortunate situation for us, bearing in mind that the user was Cape Nature and it represented quite a significant portion of our Sandveld within the city area. So for us, from a biodiversity perspective, it was a very precious piece of land. Unfortunately, what happened with that site is that we started seeing unlawful settlement happening just after the hard lockdown in COVID. So you will remember that during 2020, there were a couple of things happening at once. And obviously with people losing what little income they did have, we found a lot of backyarders were moving to places where they didn't have to pay rent. And certainly we've since discovered that a lot of people who moved onto the Drift Sands Nature Reserve were exactly in that category. Unfortunately, so initially it was just a trickle of people, and Cape Nature was making sure that it kept to the boundaries of the existing informal settlements that are in and around the reserve. But that situation changed quite radically during July and August of 2020, when they started seeing literally hundreds of shacks overnight. There was a great deal of effort to try and engage communities, but of course community leadership structures are not very settled when people are still in that phase of moving. Over the last several months, Cape Nature was essentially trying to defend their land and protect it. They've been filling in, obviously, Minister Bradell all the way along, but by December last year, there were approximately 8,000 structures on the property, many of which were within the flood zone around the detention dam that's on site. So it's from a perspective of trying to move people to safety, which has been a priority for the last year, with us engaging with human settlements as well as transport and public works and community safety to try and engage how we can make sure that people are not in a flood zone. Unfortunately, where the detention dam is, it creates a basin which can very rapidly fill with water. So people's lives as well as their property are at risk. And during the lockdowns and during COVID regulations, the ruling has been that you may not evict someone unless you put them into alternative accommodation, which is not something that Cape Nature could afford to do. So it's been an incredibly difficult situation. Unfortunately, a lot of damage has been done to the biodiversity. And therefore, we have actually submitted a request to Minister Bradell to commence the procedure for what's termed the abolishment of the nature reserve status. And technically, it's only once that status is abolished that we can do proper planning moving forward. But it certainly does look like the land does need to be shifted into human settlements. The best possible outcome would obviously be to be able to provide that ultimately to the city of Cape Town to take forward in their housing pipelines as well. But that is not something that we can finalize until such time as the land is able to be discussed in a spatial planning perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shippey. Any follow-up questions? Any further questions from honourable members?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if I actually answered your question about the nature of the security.
Yes, please, if you could.
So essentially, there are a couple of challenges that we have on site. One of the key ones is that we're continuing to see people moving in. So the area that was actually identified to move those who are in danger to the other side of Drift Sands, that area is being inundated by unlawful occupation as well. So it's a little bit of a combination of trying to protect the space that we have made available for those emergency removals, but then also to try and make sure that we protect the dam infrastructure once we have moved people, so that the City of Cape Town can come in and do maintenance, because the dam at the moment has actually had platforms built into it by those who've built onto the wall. So we have people who've actually done quite a lot of damage to the dam infrastructure, and we were very concerned about it and made sure that we had a dam safety report because of that, so that we could make sure that remedial works were done as soon as possible by the city. So that's the focus of the security. Unfortunately, the site is very large, It's very sandy and duney, so it's almost impossible to fence it. There have been attempts in the past to fence it, and we found that fencing is removed almost as quickly as we can put it up. So it is a difficult site to defend, but we're focusing the security on making sure that those who are in danger can be moved to safety and that new people do not move into danger on the dam infrastructure itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, any follow-up questions? Are you happy to consider the vote then? Honourable Mara.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, so the 4.6 million rand reduction, part of that is a 2 million that comes from Cape Nature. And if I'm not mistaken, I've heard someone said it's a saving, which is not actually a saving. It was money meant for the nature reserve, and Cape Nature basically have surrendered. And as I've said, I've seen a letter where it's been put that that particular area does not qualify for a nature reserve anymore. And I think that's the reason why money then has been surrendered to the Department of Housing. Chair, if that's the case, Cape Nature, who's supposed to guard over our nature resources and so forth for future and for next generations to come, what does this hold for other nature reserves within that same particular area of so forth? What does it hold if we one, in terms of our security, we cannot basically safeguard our nature reserve areas? Look, and at some stage, Chair, we have said there should be a balance between saving the nature for future generations versus your right to have a place to stay on and so forth. But also, Chair, I really want to understand basically what does it hold for the future of other reserves. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to find out if we may put our views on the votes now or if you're still taking general inputs.
I just ask that perhaps one of the officials respond to what, in the light of what we've just heard, whether, you know, how that would that or may that potentially impact other nature reserves as well.
So I would like to, with your permission, ask Shiraz Ismail as well, who's standing in for Rosina Omar to come in. But this is a great heart sore for us. You're absolutely right. Our mandate is to protect biodiversity and ecosystem functioning for the future. This is an untenable situation for us in terms of trying to deal with hundreds of thousands of people who need to be alternatively accommodated. And we understand the crisis, we understand the economics, but from a perspective of the environment, this is a big loss for us. In terms of is this the future for the rest of the reserves? This was the only urban reserve that Cape Nature has, so it was completely surrounded by a metropolitan area. It's also been under pressure for a very long time. So we've seen movements of informal settlements starting to encroach on the boundaries. In fact, right since the early 90s, there seem to be almost waves of informal settlements that have been dominating around the edges of this reserve for a while. So I think it's an extreme example. I think the combination of the hardship around COVID, as well as the huge housing pressure from the immediate surroundings, was the worst possible combination of factors. But I do think that in terms of Cape Nature's other sites, there's less pressure because of where they are. But Cape Nature has also developed their own policies in terms of responding to unlawful occupation. And that's what I would like Shiraz to just talk to us briefly about, because it's an incredibly important point. And it's not just the Cape Nature sites. I think this is actually a debate and a discussion that needs to happen across provincial parliament, because it is threatening our ability to safeguard education sites, to safeguard health sites. I think we really need to give good thought to how we collectively deal with unlawful occupation in the context of trying to provide future generations with services. So, Mr. Chair, with your permission, if I may hand over to Mr. Ismail.
Mr. Ismail, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Karen. I think, Chair, from the Cape Nature perspective, we have really upped the game now by having teams who's closely monitoring potential hotspot areas. But again, it's taking away from doing effective conservation work now to doing increasing patrols and so on. But what we have put in place is we've developed a strategy on how we're tackling other nature reserves. We've working very closely with SAPs. We're also working very closely with local government and their law enforcement agencies to provide assistance to Cape Nature. And I think Ms. Shippey has hit the nail on its head is, we need to look at this thing holistically because it does have an impact on not just Cape Nature resources, but eventually it's got impact on schools, social services, healthcare, all of those other aspects. And, I think it's something provincial government needs to look at holistically and come up with a strategy on how we're going to address this in the province. But we definitely have got our teams on the grounds. We've increased patrols, and where there are any signs of illegal dwellings that's going up, we're very quick to respond and deal with it with the necessary support from the department and then also the other law enforcement agencies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shippey and Mr. Ismail. Honourable members, before we consider our position on the vote, perhaps I can just ask our procedural officer, Ms. My apologies, Ms. Nicker, would you just indicate whether there are any members of the public that gave an indication that they also would like to make an input on the vote?
Thank you, Chairperson. I've not received any indication from members of the public, and I do not see anybody that's in the meeting presently. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And then I see or recognize the hand of Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Having perused the vote, I would like to propose that we support the vote, vote 9.
Good, thank you very much. That motion has been put. Is there support for that motion? Honourable Maseko?
Chair, I second the motion to support the report.
Good, thank you very much. Are there any other views?
Yes, Chair.
Honourable Maran?
Yes, at this stage not to support, Chair, and that the ANC's minority view be captured within the report as per Rule 90 of the standing rules. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Honourable Maran. So with my own support, that of Honourable Maseko and Honourable Bartman, we have 3 members that support the vote. I don't know if Honourable Helen would like to come in as well.
Chairperson, I support the vote.
Good, thank you very much. The support for the vote is therefore then the majority view. And we've also taken note of Honourable Maran speaking on behalf of the ANC's position. I do recognise still a number of hands. I presume some of them might be legacy hands. Honourable Maseko, before the document is beamed onto the screen, would you like to come in again? Good, thank you. That hand has been lowered. So then Ms. Nicker, with the majority of members of this committee supporting the vote and a minority vote to be recorded, thank you very much for beaming that onto our screens. So, honourable members, I'm just quickly for the record going to read this into the record. Report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning on Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B6 of 2021, dated the 7th of December 2021 as follows. The Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, having deliberated on the subject of Vote 9, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B6 2021, referred to it in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view that it does not support the vote. Honourable members, that is the report. Can I now please get an indication of whether you are happy for us as a committee to support this report going to the House? Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt the report.
Good. Thank you very much.
I second the move, Chair.
Is that unanimous? Thank you very much.
Reflection, Chair. I don't have a problem to support this report.
Good. Thank you very much. It is then unanimously agreed to. Honourable Minister, I don't know if you would like to make any concluding remarks.
Yeah, Honourable Chairperson, to yourself and the Standing Committee, thank you for your oversight. We always appreciate the deliberations, the questions, and we respect your oversight role. We live in very difficult circumstances and we need to do as much as possible with as little as that we receive. But also from my side, may you all have a blessed Christmas season. May you all get the time to spend time with your family and friends. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Good. Thank you very much, Minister Bradell. From my side, and I think I speak on behalf of the committee, if we wish you and the team from the department everything of the best also for the festive season. I do know that unfortunately many people have to work over this time and that not everybody is able to take some time off, and therefore I think we really want to express our appreciation for those, and may those that are privileged to go and rest have a wonderful time with their loved ones. You are excused, Minister and members of the department. Honourable members, can I just ask, are there any proposals for any resolutions or action steps that any of the members of the committee would like to propose at this stage? Please indicate by raising your hand. I do not see any proposals or additional resolutions. So therefore, I would like from my side also to say thank you very much to you as honourable members for the cooperation in this committee. While we may sometimes differ, like today, I think we are all assisting one another by asking the necessary questions. And even where we differ, I think it's healthy. And I want to really appreciate you all expressing your views so freely in this committee. But then I would like to reserve a special word of thanks to our support officers, Mr. Mfundu Mshumpela, especially our ICT staff that also assist us. But then, honourable members, I think the fact that that we've met probably I think our frequency of meetings this year may have exceeded all the other standing committees of the provincial legislature. I want to thank you for your hard work. Not only did we exercise oversight over more than one provincial department, but we also dealt with a number of pieces of legislation referred to us by the NCOP, as well as particularly the Western Cape Biodiversity Bill, which will serve before the House tomorrow. And for that, I really want to say thank you for that hard work. And I think you would allow me to just highlight or mention one specific person, Ms. Shireen Niekerk, who has really been exemplary in her support of this committee, and particularly also in her guidance of me, the chairperson. It's really been a pleasure working with all of you and being guided in that way. And honourable members, I do my wish for the officials that they would have a wonderful festive time and that there would be some rest and some quality time spent with loved ones. I would like to extend that to each and every one of you as well. And for that, I want to say thank you very much. We as a committee will see each other just now in some 15 minutes when we again meet with the Department of Agriculture. So this is not the last word between us this year. So I hope you can grab a quick cup of coffee in the 15 minutes, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you in 15 minutes at our next meeting. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Chair,
Thank you,
Honourable
Chair.
Maran?
Thank you for your
is it 15 minutes or half an hour?
Chairperson, I was just going to correct you. The vote 11 starts at 4:30.
16:30. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Thank you, Honourable Maran. Go well. See you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.